Well, hello. My name is Mary, and I'm here at the Rockwell Museum. And the museum is located in Corning, New York, on the original homeland of the Seneca people. The Seneca are just one of the many native nations who live in the northeastern part of the United States. You may have heard of the tribes of the Haudenosaunee or Iroquois, or the Lenape or the Wampanoag, and they're just a couple of the different tribes that live in the northeastern part of the United States. Now, how Native Americans lived long ago and how they live today is very different. So we're going to be talking primarily about how Eastern Woodland people lived long ago. Now, we're very fortunate at the Rockwell Museum because we have a wide collection of artwork by Native American artists who are living today. And I'd like to show you today one of my favorite pieces. And it was created by Native American artist Tammy Garcia. As you look at this artwork, you might say, wow, that's a really cool painting. But you know what? It's not a painting. It's all made of glass. And it has 3 panels here that fit together to create this one beautiful image. And you know, when you look closely at details in artwork, often the artwork begins to tell a story. Let's see what story Tammy Garcia's artwork has to tell us. So as I look at this piece, what I'm drawn to first are the animals. And I think these are deer. And I can tell because, first by their appearance, but also by their antlers. There are other animals that have antlers, like moose and caribou and elk, but those antlers look very different. So I can tell these are deer by the shape of their antlers. I see more than one deer. Can you count how many there are? Why don't we count together? I see 1, 2, 3 deer. Now, as I look at this piece, I'm thinking about the environment that these deer are in. And judging from all these trees, I think they're in the forest. And then I also think about, when I look at this piece, what time of year is it? So as I look at the trees, I notice there are leaves, but there are not a lot of leaves. So it wouldn't be winter if the trees had leaves on them. But in the summer, there would be a lot of leaves. And then, as I look towards the foreground of the artwork, the glass is infused with light colors of browns and greens and yellows. So I think this might be fall. And so I think this is a fall woodland scene. Now, do you notice any people in this artwork? Yes, I notice this person right here. And as I look at this person and I look at the clothing they're wearing, it looks like they're wearing clothing made of animal hides or skin. You know, long ago, Native Americans wore clothing made from animal hides. They didn't have stores, so they were very good at making everything from nature. Now, as I look at the clothing, I think this is a man, a Native American man. And looking at some other details, I notice he has something on his back, some kind of bag, and it looks like there are arrows sticking out. So usually when you have a container that holds your arrows, it's called a quiver, and that quiver was probably made of hardened animal hide too. I also noticed that there's a sheath on his belt, a knife sheath. So I'm wondering what he's up to. You also notice that he's kneeling, half kneeling, so one leg is up, so he's almost ready to go, but then it looks like he's kind of hiding behind the trees. Why would he be hiding? Hiding from whom? Or what? I think he might be hiding from the deer. And you know why? I think it's because he's hunting. Because he has arrows and he has a hunting knife, and there might even be a bow there that we can't even see, but I can imagine that. So the forests are full of all kinds of animals, including the deer. And deer are very plentiful, And they're also very special to the Native Americans of the northeastern United States. And long ago, before they had stores, the deer provided them with almost everything they needed for survival. So you might be wondering, well, how did they use the deer? Well, one of the most important things is the deer provided meat. And today, a lot of people hunt deer for meat to feed their families. And maybe members of your family hunt for the same reason. So when they had fresh meat, they would cut it up and then they would cook it over a fire. Or they would boil it to make a stew or some kind of soup. And then the leftover meat would have been dried or smoked so that it would last a very long time. The deer skin or hide was also used, and it was cleaned carefully, and then they used a process called tanning, where it cleaned and softened the hides so that it could be made into clothing or moccasins, which is a Native American style shoe, or also blankets, which were very important to keep them warm. The deer also provided sinew. Now, sinew comes from animal tendons, and when it's dried and you shred it, it makes a very strong string. So that string was used for the bow, so they could shoot their arrows with the bow. It was used to tie tools together, and it was also wonderful for sewing, so it was used as a sewing thread. Well, of course, you had the antlers and you had the bones. So bones were used to make many things, but for example, the skull of the deer was wide, so it was excellent for making spoons and ladles. And then the narrow leg bones of the deer were excellent for making handles for knives and for tools. And then the antlers would be carved into buttons or beads, and also to make sculptures. Now, it doesn't stop there. You might be surprised, but even the hooves were used. These are called deer toes. They're part of the hooves, and they would be tied on to something, and in this case, a bone. And then when you shake it, it would make this wonderful sound. So this is called a deer toe rattle. And this actually was made by a Native American artist who's living today. Would you like to hear what it sounds like? Me too. Ready? Isn't that a wonderful sound? So this would have been used during special occasions and whenever there was music. So I hope you get the idea of just how important the deer was to the eastern woodland people of long ago. But today, people rely on the deer for food, and many Native Americans continue the tradition of making many items out of the bones and the antlers and the skins of the deer. So much of the animal was used, very little went to waste. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the northeastern woodland peoples and the importance of the deer, and I hope you'll come to the museum to see this beautiful artwork by Tammy Garcia, and it's called Hunter's Bounty. And we have many more pieces by Native American artists, as well as other artwork. But don't worry, if you can't come visit our website, look at our e-museum where our collection is digitized and you can see the objects online. So thank you for joining me today, and happy learning.